So, guys, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 11 for today. So if you guys have your Bibles, you want to turn there, or if you need a Bible, you can put your hand up and one of these awesome ushers can give you a Bible. But if you also don't want one of those, it's going to be on the screen too. So just in case, there's many options to follow along today. So Matthew chapter 11, we're going to be reading verses 28 through 30. So just a couple verses here for us today. And it reads, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So, can I be honest with you guys today? I feel like I shouldn't lie to you, but I just want to be honest with you guys. So, we were sitting in a family ministry meeting, and they were like, we should talk about rest. And I literally went in my head, I didn't say this out loud, I thought, bro, I got this. I am a master of rest. I am so good at this. I have scheduled in my days pauses and breaks for rest. Think about this. I have a 2-year-old. When she takes a nap, I take a nap. Even sometimes in the summer before our big, large group middle school meetings, I try to sneak away and come here early and take a nap because I want to be ready for when these middle school kids get here. I am so amazing at rest that when we take a bunch of middle schoolers up to Michigan, I tell the leaders that, hey, Lee is going to take a break at 7:30. 7:30 every day, Lee takes a break. So what happens at 7:30? Right before, at 8 o'clock, there's our big club meeting where all the middle school kids at the entire camp get together and they jump up and down and praise. But I need a quick couple of minutes to take a shower and refresh myself before I get in there. So I send the leaders there and I go take a shower in the silence of the cabin. And I call this thing Lee time. In this Lee time, I decide that I'm going to now check on what's happening in the world because in Michigan, I don't know what's happening in the world. I look at some sports updates. Maybe the Lakers made an amazing signing. That never happens. I look at the news and see what's happening, which is always usually bad news. But it's a time for me to be by myself. And then, finally, when I get to club, I am ready to jump up and down and sing good plans with them with all the force necessary for me to do it. It's an amazing time. But then I did this weird thing where I decided to look at my life outside of those pockets of rest, outside of nap time with my kids, and outside of club. And I realized that even on my days off, they are full of to-do lists. I try to stay off my phone to read and relax. I end up doom scrolling on my phone and wasting so much time. And then on top of that, I end up getting mad at some weird stranger on the internet who has the gall and the gumption to make fun of my 17-time world championship Lakers and say something dumb about my favorite sports team. And my whole day has now been ruined within 5 minutes of waking up. So I gave myself a challenge. I wanted to figure out what real rest looked like. So I read some books, I watched some videos, and I took inventory of my life from every little thing, from breakfast to laundry to kids' activities to work and church and emails and texts, everything. And I have to admit to you guys, the guy that said at the beginning, I am a master of rest, I am not. I am far from it. I really stink at it. Because let my toddler, my beautiful 2-year-old daughter spill something, or my 6-year-old have an emotional meltdown, or my 9-year-old just be a 9-year-old. And I am swirling into a mess of emotions. Let a kid interrupt my coveted lead time at Surf City. And I am no longer happy. I am just a mess. Everything I said I would do, all the relaxation, all the rest that I coveted is now gone in just a split second. So I started to think, and I started to realize, if I'm not at rest, what am I doing? See, I'm always thinking about something. I'm always planning. I'm always wondering, am I doing enough? And that stress fuels my anxiety because I've tried this so many times to take the yoke that Jesus offers in this text, but I forget the most important part. That I try to throw it on like a backpack, like I can just carry all of this by myself, not realizing that I was not meant to carry all of this by myself. The yoke that Jesus is talking about is meant for two. It's supposed to be me and Jesus, that he is meant to carry all of these things with me and I wasn't meant to carry all of them all by myself. Maybe you felt like this too. You tried to rest and life just lifes. It interrupts, a text comes, the kids are eerily too quiet, and something breaks or someone calls and suddenly rest feels like a luxury that you'll never reach. Where even your moments of rest feel rushed, like you're squeezing them in and they'll never feel truly restful. See, in our text, Jesus is offering us something bigger, something more. He isn't just offering us a moment to catch our breath before we jump back into the grind. He is offering us rest for our souls. So the big question here is, what is the difference between taking a break and finding rest for your souls? In a world that always seems to be pushing us to do more, to rush to this or that, how do we find rest when the work never seems to stop? And the world around us expects us and rewards us for our busyness, where the motto is, you can sleep when you're dead, meaning you can rest when you finally rest in peace. John Mark Comer offers a solution to this in his book, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. In there, he said, hurry is a great enemy of spiritual life in our day. We must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from our life. It's kind of like the title of the book. He goes on to say the solution to an overbusy life is not more time. It is to slow down and to simplify your life around what really matters. Jesus invites us to this kind of simplicity, to come to him, all of us who are tired or burnt out, busy, exhausted, ready to quit, and you will find rest for your souls. He's not just inviting us to a nap. He is inviting us to a whole new life, a whole new way of living, a yoke that is easy and light because he carries the weight with us. We don't need just rest. We need Jesus' kind of rest, a rest that brings freedom and peace and presence back into our soul. This isn't an emotional relief moment. Jesus is pointing us to something deeper, a future rest, a future Sabbath, not just a moment of rest, a promised land kind of life where justice and joy and freedom aren't temporary, they're eternal. And all that sounds great, but what does it really mean? But I think in order for us to understand what this rest is, we have to understand God's heart for rest. This is the same God who mirrors this rest way back in the beginning in creation. He creates everything in 6 days, and on the seventh day, he does what? He rests. But this isn't just mirrored in that. His heart for a rest is also mirrored in this fact that, hey, guess what he does on the sixth day? He creates human beings. And do you know what their first full day on earth is? Is it work? No. It's a day of rest. They didn't do anything to earn this rest, but God freely offers them rest right off the gate. That is where they find rest for their souls. This is the same rest that Jesus is offering us to, this same rest for our souls. It is free. It's not a thing. The thing about this rest is this rest also takes work and trust from us. See, it's work for us to have a day to rest, and it takes trust from us to accept that the work can be paused. And once a week, we Sabbath, we pause, and we get a glimpse of God, and we find rest for our souls. This is something to be excited about, a joy that we get to rest our souls. But wait, there is more about God's heart for rest. God takes it even further in Scripture when he commands this thing called the year of Jubilee in Leviticus 25. So every 50 years in Israel, the land went back to its original owners. Debts were forgiven, slaves were free, and creation was allowed to breathe again. And the icing on the cake was work was paused for a full year. Jubilee was a reset, a divine restart button to make things right. For all of his people to find rest, to get a glimpse into the garden, to get a glimpse in what it looks like to be in his presence, to be in heaven. Jubilee shows the heart of God for rest, that it's not just an individual rest, but a societal restoration. It's not just a nap, but freedom. It's not just stopping, it's starting over. We may not live in ancient Israel, but when we understand God's heart for rest, rest calls us to live this calls us to live into the same spirit. To live as if we are already in the promised land, already in heaven, even when we're still wandering in a desert. To work for rhythms of rest and restoration, even when we don't see the results, to fight for justice, to forgive debts, to build lives around grace and peace, even if it costs us. This, my friends, is rest for your souls. It's a rest that is beyond this moment to something bigger. God's heart pushes us to see rest outside of ourselves to something that the whole world needs. See, where in your life do you need a bigger picture of rest? A bigger view of the heart of God for rest and restoration and freedom and this bigger reset? And this reminds me of Dr. King's last speech that he made. He said, I've been to the mountaintops. I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but be there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. God's heart for rest feels like something completely unachievable, that we can never quite get there. Like we may not ever get a full taste of this promised rest in our lives, but Paul echoes this same idea in Philippians chapter 3, that we keep pressing on to the goal because it's something that is worth striving for, even if we don't reach the finish line. It is so wild that God's desire for his people to rest is in this restless world. It's crazy that he offers something to us that we know we need, we know we want, yet we find rest for our souls so hard. It's hard to find peace. It's hard to find joy. It's hard to find freedom. Matter of fact, it's hard just to take a break sometimes. I think that's what makes it so crazy when we think about God's heart. God offers this big picture, this big idea in the year of Jubilee, like every 50 years, once in a lifetime, a massive reset of freedom and rest. And the people of God failed to do this one time. They didn't do it once. It's the greatest offer ever. And they're like, nah, we're good. God's heart for rest, his rest, he offers us rest for our souls, and it is hard. Because for us, it is easier for us to keep going than it is for us to stop. Like we learn this in science class, like things in motion tend to stay in motion unless something stops it. I think this is why Hebrews 4:11 says, let us therefore make every effort to enter this rest. Guys, I want to say this again, just in case you guys forgot. I have tried to rest for years, to find this Sabbath peace, to find rest for my soul, and I have failed countless times. But I truly think that some things are worth failing at. Some things are worth doing even if you don't finish them. To keep trying to reach the perfection that Paul talked about, or the mountaintop that Dr. King echoed. To find rest for our souls is one of them. Because the hope of the gospel is this: our work is not in vain, because Jesus' work was not in vain. I was trying to find some eloquent way to explain Jesus' work, but I'm going to be honest, I spent the last few months in Philippians with the middle school boys, and that's all that's been in my head. So I want to share this passage with you in Philippians chapter 2. It says this: though he was God, he did not think equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges and took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being when he appeared in human form. He humbled himself in obedience to God, and he died a criminal's death on the cross. Therefore, God elevated him to a place of the highest honor and gave him a name that is above all other names, that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. He finished the job so that we can rest. He did the work so that we can rest. He did the impossible so that we can look forward to something that does feel impossible, but God can actually achieve it. We can take his yoke because he has finished the work. So even though this life may wear us down and stress us out, we can look to the past work of Christ and the hope of the future work of God, that every knee will bow in heaven and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord, that one day there will be freedom, joy, and restoration, that the world might be broken today, but it will not be broken always. Even though we might not ever get there, we can keep pressing, knowing that Jesus will meet us on this journey. He is our rest. So here is what I think we need to shift, another shift in our mind. We need to understand that rest for our souls is not only understanding the heart of God, it's about understanding God's blessing. Often we want to just take this moment of rest, but God is offering us something more. Often we view Sabbath as a list of rules and things we do and things we're not supposed to do. But the thing is, what we really want to do is just like take a nap, maybe go for a walk or stay off our phones or emails, but not just obey a bunch of rules. But often Sabbath rest is like, it feels like a burden, something that we have to try to fit into our lives. But Dan Allender flips this idea on his head in his book called The Sabbath. He writes, "The Sabbath is not an obligation, but an invitation to delight." He means that he's saying that Sabbath is meant to be the most joy-filled day of our week, a day to play, to feast, to celebrate, and to delight, meaning enjoy. He is our creation. He is our creator. Not just to stop working, but to actually get a taste of heaven. And he continues on to say that Sabbath is a day when God has my attention. I can see his grace in the laughter of my children, the beauty of a meal, and the unhurried conversations with a friend. I think we all can see God's blessing the Sabbath is the command. We can all see that God is blessing the Sabbath and his command for them themselves. See, in Exodus 20, he links Sabbath to creation. He says, on the sixth day, you shall labor, but on the seventh, the seventh, is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In Deuteronomy 5, he ties it also to freedom, that we were to remember that you were slaves in Egypt. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath. The Sabbath is both about remembering and resisting. We remember God as our creator, and we resist the lie that we are slaves to productivity. Sabbath is how we are to practice Jubilee now. It's how we are to make heaven here on earth, and how we taste and see that the Lord is good, even in the wilderness of this chaotic world. Here is the shift. Rest is when we take a nap or cancel a meeting, but Sabbath is when we find rest for our souls. It's when we delight in God, we resist the lie of busyness, and live as if we're already free. When we understand the blessing of Sabbath, the rest for our souls, it changes the way we view our rest. See, every act of Sabbath involves rest, but not every act of rest is a Sabbath. Meaning we could take a break. It's not the same as finding rest for our souls. It's not just a break, it's a blessing. God isn't saying stop working. He is saying come celebrate, come breathe, come remember. You are not a slave, you are mine. Sabbath isn't an interruption of life. It's how God meant life to be. It's not a burden to stop working. It's a blessing from God. But how do we actually do all these things? How do we actually practically find rest for our souls? John Mark Comer has this beautiful thing in Practicing the Way on his website. I was going to be honest with you guys. Again, I like to be honest. I don't want to lie. So he said, and I was going to just straight up steal this idea and throw it up here and be like, I'm going to explain it to you guys, but this is John Mark Comer's. But I talked to the good Reverend Dr. Adam Jackley. And he said, that's a great idea, but I have a better one. I was going to say you should stop, rest, delight, and worship, but Adam told me I should say you should stop, drop, and roll. So as we stop, I'm going to come back. We should recognize and resist hurry. We need to remember, we need to plan, we need to acknowledge. When we stop, we need to remember first, because I think we are prone to forget a lot of things. I think that's why the commandments start with remember the Sabbath day, because we are prone to forget it all the time. So we need to first remember that we're supposed to stop. Then we need to plan actually stopping. And then we need to acknowledge our need to rest. Acknowledge the same God that created everything is calling us to rest in him. And then once we stop, we drop everything. We drop and lay down what we're carrying, those burdens that we're holding, and we lay them at the feet of God. And we also drop the fact that we get a chance to stop working for a little bit and lay those same ideas that our value is tied to our work and our productivity. And we get the chance to enter into the gift of Sabbath. The Sabbath is God's gift to us, not a reward for finishing the job. On the Sabbath, we drop the stresses and the control for striving and performing, and we can accept God saying, come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. It's an invitation to drop all of those burdens, not just our schedule. And then we roll. We roll with the rhythms of the life, because I just think sometimes we make plans, and those plans end up getting blown up. I have all these ideas that I am going to do for my Sabbath, and then it doesn't happen. Whether someone gets sick or something else happens, it gets blown up, and I think we have to be able to roll with those punches, roll with those ideas. But when we roll with the Sabbath, I think it allows us to roll into worshiping God. It allows us to see God as the creator and the Lord, and those are the things that allow us to understand that even in the midst of all of this broken chaos, God is still in control. That we don't have to strive for perfection in the Sabbath, because God has already done the perfect thing for us. That it allows us to just be free and just be in the presence of God. So, one more time on my disarming honesty. You guys ready for this? This is my last one. So, like I said before, I've been trying to do this Sabbath thing for a long time. I've had these days off on Monday where I've tried so hard to dedicate all this time to God. And it's been awful most days. But the last few months, I've had a new focus on what does it actually mean? What does it mean to find rest for my soul? What does it mean for me to find joy? One of the things that's been weird is I understood one of the things that I really like to do is cook. I know it sounds really strange, but I've spent a week with middle school boys, and one of the things that kept me going wasn't just getting to see my family, get to see my kids. I was really excited to spend an entire day cooking them a meal. I planned it out. I was going to go to Costco. I was going to buy a couple of steaks. I was going to throw them in the smoker for a little bit, and then I was going to grill them. I was going to make some mashed potatoes. I even got the boys in on which vegetable I should go with. They said none, but I said broccoli. And it was great. Like, it brought me joy looking forward to the day where I finally get to go home and see my kids, but not just see my kids, but bring something to them to let them know that I love them. And it reminds me that I'm loved and I'm cared for, because there's something cool about when you place the plate in front of your family and they start eating it, the joy on their faces lets me know that they care about me. But also, like, reminds me, and it quiets that voice in my head that always says, like, are you doing enough? Like, that act reminded me that I am. That it's not about, like, if the meal was perfect. It's about, like, that look on their face. So I don't think finding rest is something really, really easy to do. I honestly think it's hard, but I do think it's worth finding rest for your soul. Because I think it's just so fascinating to me that the work that I put in is the thing that gave me rest. And I don't understand it either. And I know it's kind of weird. But I want to invite you guys into that kind of rest for your soul. I think sometimes when we get a chance to pray. God offers this yoke that He wants to carry with us. And a lot of times we have these things in our lives that we know, like, God is not meant to carry with us. Whether it be sins or just things He already died for, that we're just kind of holding on and just being like, I'm going to bring this also, God, to this thing. Or we might have burdens in our lives that we know that, like, I would love to put down, but this is my thing that I have to carry, whether it be the pain and grief that we all might be going through, or the suffering of this world that we just feel like we have to carry. And God is giving us this invitation, not only just to carry those things, but to come alongside us and carry it with us. That we don't have to carry those things by ourselves, that God is there to carry it with us. So as we pray, I just want you to figure out, what is God asking you to do? Is He asking you to lay down those things at His feet, or is He asking you to lay like, hey, let me carry those things with you?